Yeah, it's here's what goes through my mind when I hear somebody say what you just said. When companies discover how much money they can save,
Well,
do you think they are going to go back to spending money? It's
nobody
a
knows.
waiting game. It's a waiting game. They're not going to open the offices. It's a waiting game to see who stays in, who stays out, how much money they can save. This has been planned out for 40, 50 years. This is not just something which happened like that. Companies have known about this for a long period of time. Companies have been preparing this. Some of them were caught out and had to move quickly, but others weren't. Others were ready for it. There's no plan to reopen the big offices. They will remain the way they are, and people will remain at home. Any extra, and what will happen is that people are starting to say exactly what you said. They're starting to say, "Hey, I have to pay for this. I don't want to pay for this. I want the company to pay for this. I have to pay for that. I don't want to pay for that." And you think the companies haven't already run through that process? They already know that's what's going to happen. Everything is a cause and effect situation. Those reactions have been gamed out already many years in advance. It's well known that the people will then ask for this and this and this and this and this, and the company will deliver it. But what this will mean is that the company will have much, much, much more control over your life. The more the company pays for within your life, the more the company controls. Now, a lot of people are going to be very happy with that. And good for them. If you find yourself in a comfortable situation with that, then good. Better that than nothing. Now, however, it just means people giving up less and less and less of whatever it is that they have. And a parallel example of this is what are called the government furlough schemes, where governments come in and sponsor companies and sponsor people to not work, which is happening across a lot of the Western countries, where we've adopted this Austrian-German system of, oh, if you can't work, the government will cover a certain percentage of your wage. Well, that is going to morph or transform into what's called universal basic income, so that everybody is going to basically have the same level of financial resources, and that nobody is going to really be very much different. And so this idea that the big offices are going to open back up. Have you seen anything get better? I haven't. I have seen things get progressively worse and worse and worse and worse, and this is just the beginning. It's not going to get better. The offices are not going to open up. Once companies realize how much money they can save by forcing people, because it's force, to work from home, they will not go back to spending large amounts of money on the people to get them moving and get things back to the old way of doing things. Think about it from the perspective of logistics, accounting, and directorship. It's more complicated logistically to have everybody moving around. It's more expensive, and it's just a headache for the people at the top. So for the big companies, yes, there might be an incentive to have an office here or an office there somewhere, but most of them are not going to open up again. ever. That's it. The only migrations or movements of people will be people trying to escape the system that has just been created. That will be the only movements that people make. One example of this might be, theoretically, a person working in a company that has a lot of rules and tells everyone to stay at home, looking for a job in a company that has less rules and allows people to move around more, theoretically, of course. So hundreds of thousands of people have just in the last 24 hours left London and moved out. Hundreds of thousands have moved out of London in the last 24 hours.
But stay in UK or out of left outside of UK?
This stayed in the UK as far as I'm aware, although it depends if people have got somewhere to go. I mean, the people who live in London might not have anywhere to go in any other country. So it's really, really hard to, it's hard to say. It's going to be done on an individual basis, but most of them are just escaping London because they can't live there because the rules are impossible. No, completely impossible. So, and this is symbolic of what's going to happen everywhere. This will come to most other major cities where the rules will be so strict that people will be forced to leave in mass migrations, which is happening now. Now, in fact, the border between Scotland and England is now closed.
But it was a Scottish government decision, or why?
Well, why? There's a lot of answers to the question why. I mean, if you want the simplest answer possible, was it a decision of the Scottish government? It appears yes. But that doesn't answer why. That just tells you what happened. It doesn't tell you why it happened, which is different. A lot of people don't get that. I know you understand, you get it. A lot of people don't get that. What is not why. Right? That's what happened, but that's not why it happened. And what they tell you is a little Disneyland fairy tale story about some magical thing that might or might not exist, depending upon which wizards you talk to. This is getting completely. It's just getting worse. It's just getting worse. 25% of all small businesses closed in the country this year. These small businesses needed December to survive. You understand, December is the big month where everyone from the small man to the big man spends their money, and they needed December to get through. Gone. Bye bye. Bye bye small businesses. Bye bye money in bank account. Bye bye mortgage. Bye bye everything. Bye bye. It's all gone. It's all gone. So, yep, those are the people who care about you, right? They've just. Oh, and this is done extrajudicially. Can't say the word. It was done it's done out of government. It's an arbitrary decision by government without asking the people. This is completely illegal. When government acts in opposition to the people, it is not legal. Or, to be more technically correct, it's not lawful. It's not lawful. There's a difference between legal and lawful. Legal is a fictitiously created fantasy system of rules between people and things that don't exist.
Mm.
Lawful is a set of agreements between people. To close a border may be legal, but it is not lawful. It's very important to understand the difference, because the media will switch these things around. They'll tell you black is white and white is black. Just because the government makes a decision, it does not mean that that decision, it does not mean that everybody must follow that decision. It doesn't mean that. It does not mean that. Because some of the decisions that government make are legal but not lawful. And the decisions that are not lawful, you don't have to follow. It's very important to understand. So if the government says everybody must be inside by 10 o'clock, they sign a piece, somebody signs a piece of paper. That's legal because it's got a signature on a piece of paper, but it's not lawful because you can't restrict people's movements. You can't do it. It's not lawful. The legal system is a fictitious system. Real law, which is common law, is something which is different. And people are not educated on that issue. They're educated on the thing. They think they're educated on force. They think that big people make big decisions and everybody must do it. That's rubbish. That's complete rubbish. People, the laws and rules created in Britain in the last 9 months are not legal. They're not legal. They're not legal. Because they have not been properly debated by a parliament, and they are against the wishes of the people. For that reason, they are not, they don't mean anything. If a policeman comes to you and says you have to do this, you can say to the policeman, you have no power over me. It's the truth. Now they can take you and take you away, and they can use force because they have force, but they don't have lawfulness. And if you get into a court, a real court, not a fake court, a real court, and you say, I don't agree with that, they have no power over you. Because if you don't agree with something, nobody can get you to do it, right? If you don't agree with, if someone says, drink this coffee, and you don't agree with that, nobody can force you to drink the coffee. Because that becomes a crime. Forcing someone to drink the coffee becomes a criminal activity. The application of force is a criminal activity. It's abuse. The application of force is abuse. It's a criminal activity. Everyone always has the right to say no. If government decides everyone should get a vaccination, that's not lawful. It's not a lawful decision because the government can say, would you like one? I can say, no, thank you. And that's it. And finished. Everybody has the right to say no to everything. Everything is a choice. Everything. And the government has no right to use force against the people because the government is the government of the people. It has no right to use force. And if you go into a court and you get a fair trial, it's questionable.
Mm-hmm.
If you get a fair trial, you will win every time if somebody applies force on you to do something that you don't want to do. If someone forces you to have sex, that's rape. That's wrong. If someone forces you to take drugs, that's wrong. It's a crime. It's the same thing. Your life, your choice. Your body, your choice. Nobody else can decide that for you. And what we have right now is a Europe of people who don't understand this. It's very important to understand. They don't understand this. They think because John in the government says you must do this, that you must do it. That's not the law. That's not lawful. If you believe that, we might as well go back to having kings and queens telling everybody what to do. Because that's what happened in the past. The king said, you must do this, and everybody did it. And then we took that and we threw it away because it was stupid. Now what we have is a lot of little kings in government saying, you must do this. But that's not lawful at all. That's crazy. We stopped doing that 300 years ago because it doesn't work. And now we want to go back to just, yes, sir, I will do everything that you tell me to do. But that's not the law. Under law, every single person as an adult is equal. Is equal. No one is allowed to force anyone else to do anything. Nobody. Nobody. Everything is a choice. There are consequences to choices. People have to decide which consequences they want to live with. I make those choices in my life as well. Sometimes the police say things to me and I say, okay. If that's what you want, I'll do it. But I can tell you this, it's not what I want. I can accept what you want, but I don't have to agree with it. The difference between acceptance and agreement is very, very important in all negotiations. Where I can say, I accept that, but I don't agree with it. Because maybe it's right for you, maybe it's right now. But what about tomorrow? What about next week? What about next month? A lot of things are going to happen that nobody knows about. That nobody can predict. Maybe it's brilliant now, but what about it this time next year? Maybe it's going to be terrible. And at that point, we need to understand that we always have this right to say no to everything. And it's not right to and people apply force in different methods. There's physical force, there's psychological force, there's financial force, there's incentivized situations. But in a real court, if there is real law, you will always win if somebody applies force to you and you don't apply any force to them. It always reminds me of there was a film in the 1980s made by it wasn't made by, it was that had the singer David Bowie in it. You know who David Bowie was, yes. Right? Okay, yeah. So there's a children's film. When your daughter grows up, she will watch it, right? There's a children's film called Labyrinth, and it's about a girl who makes a wish and gets transported to a magical world, which is a labyrinth or a maze that she has to get through. Mm-hmm. And there's another the evil wizard, bad person played by David Bowie. He steals her brother, and she has to go and get her brother back. And the whole end of the film, it's a great film, it's a great story. It's great for kids and adults. At the end of the story, the girl just says, "You have no power over me." She says, "You have no power. You cannot force me to do anything." And if you look very carefully, the governments are not creating laws about what is happening right now. They're creating objectives and directives and missions and everything that's not a law. Everything is not a law. Why are acts called acts? Acts are part of law, right? Why are acts called acts? Where do you find acting? Acting is in a theater. Acting is in a theater. That's what actors do. The acts are as fantasy as the theater. They don't really apply to people, and everybody can opt out and object to anything that is applied. It's very interesting. We've all become very obedient and good at following rules and instructions. We're all very well trained. You know Star Wars, the small green character, Yoda.
I'm not watching Star Wars, or I
It's
didn't
good.
watch.
It's good. It's good. It's good that you don't watch Star Wars. It's probably it's a good thing because it's a lot of fantasy. I only say that because it's part of pop culture and it's very popular.
Mm-hmm.
There's a small green character who is called Yoda. And unlearn your must, young Skywalker. Unlearn. He always speaks in a funny accent. That was a terrible impersonation. But he talks about unlearning. He's trying to teach the young Jedi masters to fight. And he says like one of the first rules is first you must unlearn before you can learn.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been, as a society across the West, we have been trained very well to learn. Now we must unlearn, which is almost the opposite process, which is complicated for little people because it requires a change. It requires transformation. And this is also a period of time in which transformation for some people is a choice. People are looking for a different way or a different path or something different in their lives. Or it's being forced by companies on people saying that you must do this because the governments don't run countries anymore. Companies run countries. Europe is a giant corporation. The people in politics don't really get paid by the politics that they do. The position in politics is just a position to allow them to accept resources and finance from other sources, predominantly companies. So it's now the bigger corporations and companies that run the governments, not really the governments themselves. It's the corporations that are private. It's the corporations that have their own security. I don't think the countries are really that strong anymore. I don't think the borders really matter. Arbitrary agreements between people about, oh, let's make a line here. Okay. They make a line anywhere. It doesn't really matter. Oh, Scotland, England, line. Let's build a wall. Oh, genius. Yeah, let's go back 2,000 years and build walls between people. How stupid can you get? This is just no brain, no pain. I was